I'm gonna take myself out. Rob, count back from 10, okay?
Mm-hmm. We're on. Derbyites. We are back once again for one of the high holy nights of the awards calendar. It's Emmy night, everybody. And look, I'm jumping out of my skin because of all the surprises and suspense that we're going to have over this the night. Just kidding. It's going to be a very predictable evening, but what better way to really ramp up our excitement than to have the best of the best, the creme de la creme of Emmy Awards prognosticators. I've got Luca Giliberti, who is dialing in from Germany. I've got Sam Eckmann dialing in from the East Coast, New York City. And of course, we have the one, the only Chris Beachum joining us. I feel really lucky, Chris, that you finally had half an hour out of your very busy schedule of being the best awards prognosticator and writer on the planet to join us. So, Chris, thank you very much for doing that. I appreciate it.
Well, I wouldn't have, but everybody else in LA is downtown, so I'm the only one. I'm the only one this time. But I did get to go to the BAFTA tea party yesterday, so it's not like I didn't get to talk to some of the Emmy nominees. So that was fun.
That's exciting. Okay, well, I want to hear all about that. But in the meantime, we do have plenty to talk about, guys, because yes, we know that the Emmys are going to be pretty predictable this year. We're going to see sweeps, I think, from 3 shows: Shogun, The Bear, and Baby Reindeer. But you all know better than most that the Emmys do love to throw up a few surprises from time to time, and it happens almost every year. So there has to be some degree of suspense, particularly in some of the categories, which we will talk about. But also, there will be some categories where we think there's a lock, and then someone else takes it out at the last second. So let's not get too complacent, and let's just try to see what we can discover over this next 2 hours. Now, we're doing this in 4 half-hour blocks. So we now have these amazing guys to start us off. I want to go straight to Sam first. And this is the question, Sam. If Shogun wasn't the massive, huge show that's going to just completely wipe everybody out, what would you say would be the show in Best Drama Series that is most primed to take out some hardware tonight?
Oh, that's hard because I am predicting some sweeps here, but I think maybe Mr. and Mrs. Smith has kind of an air of excitement around it. It's from people that the Emmys love, with the cast and creators. And I feel like that has a little bit of new energy. And so maybe if there wasn't this huge dominant show like Shogun, that it really is just coming in to take everything, then it could score a few things. The Crown is also up there. We know they love The Crown, but I feel like there's a little bit more kind of excitement and energy around Mr. and Mrs. Smith this year that people have discovered. So I think that would probably be, I have that as my runner-up right now.
And actually, I also want to add this, Sam, and maybe you could answer this. What would you choose if it wasn't Shogun? What would your choice be out of those nominees?
Anyone who reads my stuff knows I'm a huge genre fan, so I would absolutely go for Fallout. I had a exceptional time watching Fallout. I think the design is incredible. The way they adapted it is great. It's just such a unique world that they've built with that, and I thought Ella Purnell was fantastic in the lead. So that was the show that really hooked me, I think, more than anything else out of this lineup this season. So that would be my choice.
Isn't it great that it was actually nominated across the board as well? A show like that. It's just really encouraging that the Emmy voters, they do love their sweeps, but the nominees are very, very interesting, eclectic and different. So I totally with you on that. Luca, same question for you. Do you agree with Sam that Mr. and Mrs. Smith and The Crown are most likely the also-rans or the runners-up this year?
I think they're definitely in the top 5, and I think Mr. and Mrs. Smith is probably in the top 3. I think the word that is really important here that Sam mentioned is excitement. I think when we look at any category, we really want to see which show or which person has a lot of passion, a lot of passionate support. And I think Mr. and Mrs. Smith definitely has that. I think another show that has that is Slow Horses. It overperformed with 9 nominations. That total may not seem to be very significant, but it is a significant total if you look at everything that the show got. I mean, we expected the drama series nomination, the nomination for Gary Oldman, but it got 3 acting nominations, including for Jack Lowden in supporting actor and Jonathan Pryce in guest actor, and it got writing, directing, and casting. I don't think most people were expecting it to get all of those nominations. So I could see that being the runner-up. I believe that's what I have in second place, just because it has so much passionate support. And I'm going to agree with Sam. If I were choosing personally here, I would go with Fallout, or would have gone with Fallout for all the same reasons. Sam is also a Yellow Jackets fan, so seeing Ella Purnell in a lead role, leading a show, it was just where she's not being eaten. Exactly, is such a joy. And I'm really just happy to see that the show got 16 nominations for a first season show that premiered in April. That is quite impressive. So I'm just happy that it got the nominations. I hope Ella Purnell gets in for a subsequent season, and I hope the show expands the nominations, because I think its ceiling is pretty high.
I mean, it would have been nice for Ella Purnell to get nominated as well. That's a little bit annoying, but it is what it is, and we have to move on with our lives. Chris, same question for you. How are you looking at drama series? Because I mean, we know Shogun's going to win, okay? But if it wasn't going to win, what would you be saying about drama series?
Well, regardless of what wins, this is an amazing group of 8 shows, and all across the board. You've got your more regal shows like The Crown, and we haven't even mentioned The Gilded Age. Luca did tons of interviews for us on the morning show we haven't talked about. All the ones that have been mentioned. And Shogun is that kind of show, as it proved last week at Creative Arts, that not only great acting, great producing, directing, writing, but the crafts are amazing. So I don't really like sweeps, but you can totally understand it here. I would say if it didn't exist, you got to say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, in terms of big awards, won over Michaela Cole last week. That would have been a sign to us. Billy Crudup it's like 50-50 on him winning supporting actor with Asano, who I have predicted. So morning show could be in second place. And you all mentioned Slow Horses as well. And The Crown is certainly going to win for Elizabeth Debicki. So they were lucky, The Crown was, that Shogun didn't get any supporting actresses in. But it's a great group of nominees all across the board, I think.
It really is. I love drama series. I mean, I just look. I mean, there's probably a couple of shows in that list which I won't name, which is not my cup of tea. But you can see it's a strong group of series, and across the board in the drama series categories. If it were up to me, following on from what Sam said about being a genre nerd, I'm of course am one of the big ones as well. I'd be going for Three Body Problem. I love that show. I loved it, and I interviewed everyone from the show, pardon me, including the craft services. And so, that's one of my oldies. Love the show. Gilded Age, amazing second season. Slow Horses, Luca's right. I checked this the other day because I was wondering how well did Slow Horses do. It got every nomination that you really need to be a real contender. If it wasn't for Shogun, I probably would be predicting that, and probably The Crown because of its last season. And then Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Wow, what an amazing first season. The energy around that show is palpable. And Michaela Cole winning, particularly with other actors from her show being in that category and still being able to win. Really strong performance, really amazing from the Emmys. There's something that I do want to say about Shogun, which even if it's not really the show that you love or it's your kind of thing, isn't it amazing, Chris, that the Emmy voters have really responded to a show that is mostly in Japanese, is full of actors that they don't really know, have never heard of, and is about a period of history that perhaps a lot of people aren't that familiar with, and yet it's so transcendent as a work of art that Emmy voters have really showered it with so much love. I'm actually really surprised and encouraged by that. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, even when it was premiering and getting the initial reviews, we all wondered about that. But I think it worked out really well. I met several of them yesterday at that BAFTA party, and yeah, we talked Emmys and we talked several things. But to a person, they all wanted to know when their Gold Derby Award trophy was coming in. So that's important to them too. And they had won. Lead actor, well, all the same ones we're expecting tonight: lead actor, lead actress, supporting actor, show. Richard Gabb was asking about his trophy as well, which just so everybody knows, in case I didn't talk to you at the party or whatever, the trophies were sent out on Wednesday, so they should be there possibly even tomorrow, I would think. So that's really cool.
It's very cool. And I also wanted to point out, in case people missed this last weekend, that Nestor Carbonell pointed right at you, Chris, and said thank you to Gold Derby, not only for all your support. I think the interviewer was Tony Ruiz, maybe. I think that's right.
Yeah, Tony
and
did all
said,
the interviews for that show.
That's right. Beautiful interview that he did. And then thank you, of course, to Gold Derby for my award from Gold Derby voters. So just goes to show, mate. Gold Derby, there's nothing better. All
And
right,
I don't have a photo here, but they're beautiful awards. They're black. They're about maybe a foot tall. They're very solid. They're not cheap in any way. And they have gold. It's a horse with gold wings, which represents Pegasus, but also the gold represents Gold Derby and the fact that we have a horse race for every award show possible.
It's basically the perfect award, and it's something that I aspire to winning one day. I hope that we have a category for best editor.
I don't know if you ever saw the photo. I'll try to repost sometime. 2 or 3 years, or a couple of years ago, Justin Hurwitz won for his score of Babylon, and he got the trophy, sent to him on felt like a FedEx delivery kind of thing. He sent us a photo, and it was all in fun to Oscar people, Grammy people, but it was a box where he had everything else in his awards collection boxed up, like to go, and the Gold Derby Award was sitting next to the box. So that was kind of funny.
It goes without saying. It really does go without saying. I want one of those damn trophies. So let's move on to some other categories. Again, if we're looking at drama actor and actress, I feel that actress is less of a crapshoot. I think Anna Sawai pretty much has this one wrapped up. Of course, as we were just saying, she won the Gold Derby Award, so there you go. It's pretty much locked up now for her. But Sam, if it wasn't for Anna Sawai, who would be out front in that country?
Well, I think Imelda Staunton is giving the type of performance that is just kind of awards catnip that they fall over themselves for, playing a real life person. She's, a very well-respected actress in the final season of a show that really all TV watchers love. So I have her in second place, and I think she's going to get a lot of votes. I don't think it'll be enough to overtake Anna, but I think she is definitely up there and is a favorite among a lot of actors who look up to her quite a bit. So I think she's pretty competitive.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. Who would you vote for if you're an Emmy voter? And who would you vote for out of those 6?
Out of those 6, I think I would probably vote for Imelda. Why not? I think it's I always love watching her. I've seen her in so many things, and she's just always incredibly captivating and has so much going on underneath the surface all the time in her performances. So she'd be my choice.
That finale with the beautiful score written by Martin Phipps, composer, Emmy nominee, and where she's walking out of the chapel broke me. I'm going to go to Luca last because I have a feeling I know what Luca's going to say. So Chris, Anna Sawai is winning that. I know, but let's not build it up too much because it might be anticlimactic. Chris, Anna Sawai is going to win. Who would you suggest would be the runner-up here?
Well, I might even personally vote for Anna, but if I couldn't, if she wasn't available this year, I would. Boy, I like all 6 of these. I would say think about Carrie Coon, because she is one of the nicest people in the world, first of all, and she knocks it out of the park on every project she does. And I still remember that year of hers on Fargo. But anyway, I would really, really have to think about Carrie.
Wow. Okay, I was not expecting that. Luca, what about you?
So I actually agree with everything that Sam said about Imelda. And I think, Rob, what you mentioned, I think the series finale is the reason she would be so strong in this race, if not for Anna Sawai. I think that really sealed this nomination for her, sealed the, because she didn't get nominated last season. So I think that gave me a bit of pause going into this season. But I think once we all saw the series finale, we knew she would get in. The only thing that also gives me pause is that she's the only person who played Queen Elizabeth on the show who did not get a SAG nomination. I do think that is quite important. So I would still have her in second, but I do think that Jennifer Aniston is also very strong in this race. She did get a SAG nomination for the third season, and she also missed last season, obviously, which was kind of a surprise to most of us because Reese Witherspoon got in instead. I don't think anyone was predicting that. But I think the problem with Jennifer Aniston is that, number one, I think sometimes if you don't win for your first season, when you have all this momentum behind you, I think it can be very difficult to win unless your show is on a trajectory like Succession, where you're just getting stronger and stronger each season. And I also think that I think a lot of people prefer Jennifer Aniston this season, at least on the internet. But I do think that in the Academy, there might be, some split votes some for Jennifer Aniston and some for Reese Witherspoon. I do think a lot of people like that character, like Bradley Jackson, and Reese Witherspoon has a really baby storyline this season, even if it was a bit controversial. So I could see I could see some vote splitting there. That's why I don't have Jennifer Aniston in second place, even though I had her there for the longest time. As for who I would personally vote for, I would probably vote for Anna Sawai. I think she was absolutely the highlight of Shogun. I think she was exceptional in her big episode, Crimson Sky. But I also love Jennifer Aniston in this season of The Morning Show. I think she keeps getting better and better in this role. And I think what she does in this third season is just exceptional. I had to do a lot of rewatching for the interviews I did, and to just pick up on some of the small things that she does, some of the more nuanced work. It was really kind of a joy to watch. So it's a really strong category.
She is Jennifer Aniston. I think is terminally underrated as an actor. She is so good in The Morning Show. She's good in everything. I really, really respect and admire her. I think that Carrie Coon, she really just blew me away. By that finale, when she's in that beautiful theater, triumphant, like a Lady Macbeth almost, but with a smile and a nice velvet glove. I just was blown away. I remember her from The Leftovers. I'm still in therapy over what she did to me from The Leftovers. Carrie Coon for me would be the winner. But Anna Sawai is probably, to me, the best thing about Shogun. With everything that we enjoy and love and admire about Shogun, Anna Sawai, just every time she came on the screen, I was transfixed by her. So I totally understand why this doesn't seem to be very suspenseful, as opposed to drama actor, because of course Hiroyuki Sanada is, he is Shogun. It's all about him, his character, and he's so transcendent in that show as well. But we must always keep in mind that drama actor is tough. You've got Gary Oldman, to me, the GOAT, one of the greatest actors of all time. And I've had him in number one for many weeks until about 2 weeks ago when I was finally convinced, Rob, this ain't happening. This is just going to be Shogun across the board. Donald Glover is outstanding in Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I'm trying not to be too hyperbolic, but I'm so impressed by these performances. Dominic West, finally nominated for The Crown. He's exceptional. There's a scene where he is hugging Ed McVeigh, who plays William, when they kind of reconcile those two characters. I had tears in my eyes. Walton Goggins in Fallout. Incredible performance. So good. And in any other year, a possible winner. And then, of course, Idris Elba in Hijack. The only nomination that Hijack was able to squeeze out this year, but he is so good in that show. I watched that show, I think it's 6 episodes in one day. I couldn't stop watching it. It was that damn good. So this is a category where you've got all the heavy hitters. Now, we all think, I'm pretty sure, that Hiroyuki Sanada is going to win. But Chris, if it wasn't him, who would be out front here? Because you could make a case for all of them, perhaps maybe except for Idris Elba.
I'm glad you went to me first because I know what at least one other person's going to say. So I get to say it first. And I talked to him yesterday, and that's Walton Goggins. Been doing great TV work and movie work for many. It's kind of like the Carrie Coon situation with me. Just been killing roles for many years. You know, I didn't notice this before. Never had noticed this before. Watch Latasha's interview with him on yesterday's red carpet and tell me his voice isn't almost exactly like Matthew McConaughey. At least when he's talking personally, not necessarily in a role, but I go back to, at least before Justified with him, if not further. And he's just great. And I would love to see him win at some point at the Emmys. That year of Hateful Eight, I did the junket for that movie, meaning I interviewed everybody. And I had just seen the movie. And I remember telling the publicist there, we were, on a junket, you get like 5, 6, 7 minutes, something like that with each person. I said, is it possible I could talk to Walton for our typical like 15 minutes? Because he was so good, and I actually think he could get in. And he appreciated that so much, he still remembers that to this day. So that we gave him that kind of time, and the others didn't get that kind of time on that one movie. But anyway, I'm talking too long, but that's what I would say.
I love your digressions. We're all like, tell us more. Sam, what do you think about drama actor? It's a killer category.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think this is the category where if it was the old Emmys, even just a few years ago, we would have a surprise here instead of the Shogun frontrunner. But I do feel like the voters we've seen recently, they're ready to check something off down the ballot, But I agree with Chris that Walton Goggins, I think, would actually be quite formidable here if this was happening, 5, 7 years ago. I did a panel this season with TV directors, and Michael Dinner for Justified City Primeval mentioned Walton off camera. And I think every director who was on the panel said, oh, we love him. They all just had such adoration for him and just thought he was one of the hardest working people in Hollywood. And he's appeared on so many projects, is always knocking it out of the park, always playing something really different and interesting. So I think he would be a great choice, and probably would maybe be my vote because I'm a huge Fallout fan. And I also think, in terms of actors that have the adoration of other actors, Gary Oldman is quite formidable and is one that other actors say, oh my God, how do I get to that level and be a chameleon like he is in his projects? So it's a really, really stacked category.
Yeah, Luca, can we talk about Gary Oldman for a sec? Because I feel that some people may argue that it's an understated performance and, there's a lot of fireworks, but I believe that is the reason why he's so damn good in Slow Horses, because every line reading, every barb, every joke, every insult is clinically delivered. He is so perfect in that show. One of our commenters, Josh Friedman, mentioned that we shouldn't underestimate him. He's so good in season 3. He's currently streaming on season 4. What do you feel about drama actor? And would you put your support behind Gary Oldman?
I think he's absolutely exceptional on Slow Horses. And what we've been seeing, he's been gaining momentum, right? He got that Golden Globe nomination kind of out of nowhere. I don't think anyone was predicting him. And ever since then, I think that's when a lot of us started really taking Slow Horses seriously as a possible Emmy contender. So I actually think he's very formidable in this race. In fact, I was predicting him for the longest time after nominations because I just wasn't sure, because I know a lot of people don't agree with the notion that Shogun underperformed in acting, but I would argue it actually did to some degree. We also have to acknowledge that the second lead actor of the show, Cosmo Jarvis, did not get nominated, even though most people were predicting him. It was completely shut out of supporting actress, so I thought there might have been some weakness there. But I'm at a point now where I'm predicting Shogun to win a supporting actor, actress, and it already won guest actor. And I don't think you can then not predict, the face of the show, Hiroyuki Sanada, who's also an executive producer. Everyone knows that this is his baby. So that's kind of why I'm predicting him. I also think there's a ton of goodwill for him. He's had an incredible career. And the only thing that gives me pause, and I'm not the first person to say this, Joy Tsang and Chris Rosen have said it in their videos, that he's kind of Toranaga, so his character is kind of the Logan Roy of Shogun in terms of the type of character he plays, and Brian Cox never won for Succession. So that's something to keep in mind, that they sometimes, we don't find out what Toranaga's intentions really are until the very end of the show. He really keeps that character under wraps, and sometimes those types of performances have a difficult time winning. But I think in this case, Shogun is just too big, and again, it would be weird to reward everyone else from the show and then not reward him. So that's kind of why I'm predicting it.
Wow, that's really insightful, because you just reminded me about, spoiler alert, Toranaga's journey over that season, and yeah, it was spine-tingling actually. So I keep getting visions of surprises, and I feel like if there's going to be one, we're all like, oh, it's going to be here. I really believe that. I just feel like I don't think we can really just assume that we're just going to see winners left, right, and center that come from the same show. And I just feel like if it happens, it could be here. Now, we have a few minutes left. I want to just open it up to the three of you to talk about that category that you really feel passionate about, or that you want to point something out that perhaps maybe hasn't been discussed over the last few weeks ad nauseum. Whatever you want, it's really up to you. Who would like to go first? I'm just letting you guys run the show now for the next 5 minutes, and then I'm going to eject you. What about you, Luca?
Oh God, which category? I think limited series supporting actor is the most wide open category. That's the category where I really have been toying with 3 different people. And I really just don't know what to do. I have now landed on someone, Tom Goodman-Hill of Baby Reindeer, because I don't want to go into, I'll be talking forever if I go into detail here, but I think it's a category where arguably there is no one that really stands out in terms of having so much more passion than everyone else. I think most people would agree that Jonathan Bailey of all these people has the most passionate support online, but sometimes I'm a bit concerned, or sometimes you just don't know whether that online support is actually going to translate. Fellow Travelers only got 3 nominations. It did get a second acting nomination for Matt Bomer, but that's kind of where I'm not really quite sure what to do, and that's why I can't articulate my thoughts here very well. But I think Baby Reindeer is obviously the strongest limited series. It's already going to win limited series. It's going to win 2 other acting prizes. And I could see a world in which they just check off Tom Goodman-Hill because they've watched the show and they liked his performance enough to nominate him. And in a wide open field, sometimes that's just enough. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Sam?
Well, I would say I think actually lead actor in a limited series might be even more wide open. I just feel like that is where I think a surprise could actually happen, like a big shocking Emmy surprise. Because I know everyone is thinking Richard Gadd, like Baby Reindeer was a huge, huge deal this season. It had that addicting quality to it that made everyone race through it and fall in love with it. But I think they have other opportunities to reward him. And I just keep thinking like other characters are a bit more transformative for the actor in that category, which makes me think like, oh God, are we all just like underestimating these people because they're not starring in the de facto frontrunner? I mean, if you want to talk about transformations, usual awards catnip, it would be Tom Hollander for Feud, who is, completely loses himself in Truman Capote. And there's other, men here like Andrew Scott, John Hamm, who do such a tremendous job playing something a bit different than usual, playing against their persona, I think. And that can go a long way with awards voters. So maybe I'm just hoping that there are surprises where there won't be, but that's where I feel like a real surprise could be.
Wow.
I think that's what helps Richard, though. When you're the front runner, it's better for you if there are several people that have passion than if there's just like one alternative that everybody's going to gravitate towards. I've also got Tom Goodman-Hill, mainly because we the last 3 or 4 years have been just almost complete sweeps at the Emmys, and I don't think there's a ton of passion behind Robert Downey as much as he's the most famous person in the category. It's the only nomination for the show, and Jonathan Bailey. I mean, how often does Showtime actually win Emmys? It's not that often. People, for whatever reason, and I don't agree with it, but they just don't seem to watch Showtime or Paramount Plus in terms of voters. So that's why I think Tom and Richard for the thing. By the way, I'm glad you mentioned Tom Hollander, Sam. You interviewed him, back in the spring. he told me to tell you yesterday when I saw him at the BAFTA Tea Party, that's one of the best interviews he's ever done. Not from his side, but from one of the best interviewers he's ever had. I guess put it that way.
That's
So,
very nice.
Oh, what a compliment.
and I told you even at that time, I thought how relaxed and conversational it was. So anyway, I did talk to him yesterday, and on this same front, and I know we need to wrap. I'm one of the only ones that has Brie Larson tonight. I don't know how we all just landed on Jodie Foster, or like 75% of the people, and it was just a done deal. They're both equally relevant and equally Oscar winning. Well, Jodie has 2, but Brie's an Oscar winner too, and we saw Lessons in Chemistry at least win something last week. So I just kind of feel like I don't really want to change that. I've got Brie, and I'm going to stick with it.
Listen, if that happens, you're going to win the predictions contest. And we said that during our 25 categories in
I
25
looked today,
minutes.
and I think there's 3 out of 8 editor. No, one has Juno, 2 of us have Brie, and everybody else has Jodie. So it's like one of the only limbs I'm on.
So when that is announced, we will most likely be texting each other. We'll see. Listen, I love having the 3 of you here, but unfortunately, we need to say goodbye. Have a great Emmys night and enjoy yourselves. And I'm sure I'll see you on our internal Slack channel, bitching and laughing and whatever about the awards as they unfold. We now have to welcome new people. So goodbye.
Bye-bye. Have fun, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
We will. Okay. Well, I think we're supposed to have Daniel as well. He may not be ready yet. But so far we have David Buchanan and Chris Tsang, both of you dialing in from the East Coast, and a third East Coaster, Daniel Montgomery. Hello, everybody. Welcome to round 2 of our pre-show. Look, we have so much to talk about. We've done a bit of a deep dive in the drama categories, and we can certainly revisit that towards the end. But let's move on to comedy if we can, just for a bit. Because the Shogun sweep is also going to be kind of repeated in the comedy side with The Bear. The Bear's going to win a lot tonight, and there's going to be probably a little bit of bitching about whether The Bear is truly a comedy or not, and I don't care about that. It's a great show, and if it wins a lot of Emmys, I'm all for it. But let's talk about what you would suggest would be the show that might take the Emmy crown from The Bear if The Bear wasn't such a huge mega winner across the board. Okay, so let's go to you first, Daniel. What do you think about comedy series and the comedy categories in general, and what show might be bubbling under the surface as an actual contender?
I think it's got to be Hacks. It seemed, even though it didn't win anything, I don't think at Creative Arts. It seems to be it had so much passionate support when it was airing, and it aired more recently than The Bear's second season, which was a year ago. And if there is any backlash about whether The Bear is a comedy or not a comedy, I think those grumblings may have gotten a little louder after it actually won Best Comedy Series. Then Hacks is your funny comedy that people might want to go to. It's fairly rare for a dramedy to win Best Comedy Series at the Emmys. Before The Bear, it was Ally McBeal. Desperate Housewives couldn't win. Only Murders in Orange is the New Black, when it was a comedy, couldn't win. Transparent didn't win. So I would watch out for Hacks still, even though I'm pretty sure it's going to be The Bear again.
What about you, David?
Yeah, I totally agree, but I think the Hacks is going to have a pretty decent night overall. I don't think we're going to see The Bear win 7 out of 7. Last year it didn't have a lead actress contender at the last Emmy, so it didn't sweep. I don't think it's going to necessarily sweep this year either. So I think Jean Smart is likely going to win. A lot of folks are predicting Hannah Einbinder, myself included, which I'm a little shaky on, but feeling okay about. Some folks are predicting it to win writing again. It's won in a lot of categories, even in the past. Like, it's not just a Jean Smart kind of vehicle. It's won, guest actress. It's won writing and directing. Is that right? We're just directing. season 1.
Both.
So, it has like a wide kind of range of support for past seasons. So I think, just to say, I think Hacks will maybe do better here as a kind of rival to the Bear than other shows against Shogun. Like if there's going to be, a kind of commanding show of the night, it's going to be Shogun, perhaps not the Bear as commanding.
I think that's a really spot on point. Chris, how do you feel about the comedy categories?
I mean, I agree. I feel like for everyone, if we're not predicting the Bear, we're predicting Hacks, and the other is the only alternative, specifically with those actress categories and for writing. But I am very cautious about the Bear. A lot of us, myself included, didn't think it was going to sweep last year, and this time it won almost twice as many Creative Arts Emmys as it did last year, and it was still able to pull that off. And I think if it sweeps all 7, I think it beats John Adams' record for 14, which I guess further questions it as a comedy in its placement, but that's a moot point. But I think it's definitely very hard to it's very cautious to try to predict Hacks for some of these categories, because this could easily be another case of last year, and it could be another case of, fool me twice, shame on me situations when it comes to the Bear.
That is very true. And I a couple of days ago I was thinking I'm going to try to formulate an argument for Only Murders in the Building, because that's third season was so wonderful and people really responded to it. The Meryl Streep of it all, the Sitzgrove episode, Siddhartha Khosla won for composing the music finally, but it doesn't have writing and directing, and that is problematic for a show like that, unfortunately. And I just feel like I think you're all onto it, that Hacks would be really the main competition for the Bear. And quite rightly so. Don't you all agree that Hacks just came off probably its strongest season, perhaps to date? I thought it was an absolutely magical season. It was so funny and so heartwarming and just so brilliantly directed and written and acted. So I wish it would pick up more than perhaps the 2 that we're suspecting it will win, which is actress for Jean Smart and supporting actress for Hannah Einbinder. But we'll just obviously have to wait and see. The first award of the night actually is going to be Comedy Supporting Actor. It's being presented by Selena Gomez, Steve Martin, and Martin Short. Just saying that out loud, I just got chills, because I know it's going to be a fun thing to watch the 3 of them up there. And we're all expecting Evan Moss-Backrack to take that out again in 2 years in a row. So this is a complete segue into something that's completely unrelated, but I want to get your takes now on drama if we can. We've gone over drama a bit in the first slot of the night. But let's talk about it a bit. Shogun's going to win a lot of awards. We know this. We're pretty confident. And if that doesn't happen, then we're all going to be eating crow, whatever the saying is, and we're all going to admit that we were wrong, but I don't think that's going to happen. So if it's not Shogun, Daniel, what would you say would be the show to most look out for in drama series and across the drama categories?
I think The Crown, it's the final season of the show. It's a proven winner for best drama series. I think before, someone at Netflix must have been cursing as soon as Shogun announced that it was, continuing beyond season 1 and thus would be moving into drama series categories, because I think The Crown was just going to win it by default, sort of like the last season of Game of Thrones did, although the final season of The Crown was better received than the final season of Game of Thrones. So yeah, I think, if it weren't for Anna Sawai, we'd be looking at an Imelda Staunton win. We're already looking at Elizabeth Debicki winning. So I think it would be a big night for The Crown were it not for Shogun.
Okay, that's really interesting. David, I agree with Daniel, by the way. I think that The Crown had a really strong last season, and it probably would have won a bunch of awards tonight had it not been for this amazing Shogun that we're all talking about. What do you feel about the drama categories?
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the other contenders who either overperformed our expectations in nominations or had a really good creative arts, let's say, last weekend, they're just missing maybe some element, right? Like Slow Horses was so strong in nominations. I think A lot of people have been waiting for that breakout moment. It finally happened, but it doesn't have directing. So, I feel like there are just little pockets of areas where if that show or maybe some other shows just had something else that could show that it's I think the morning show has a similar kind of missing one of those important nominations, even though it did so well with the acting, actors branch. I just feel like The Crown has all the support that it would need to win. And it just feels like a very solid number 2. We know it's going to win at least one, or we should say it's going to win one tonight, supporting actress. So it's going to get on the board at the primetime ceremony this year. And I don't think others necessarily can stake that claim.
Chris, on the Crown train, I feel it's a little unfortunate for Imelda Staunton. She will probably likely be the only queen from the show that missed out on a nomination once last time, and also will probably walk away without a trophy that both the other 2 queens were able to achieve. That sucks because Imelda Staunton's amazing in The Crown. So how do you feel about The Crown's chances tonight, apart from the Elizabeth Debicki most likely win from her?
It's funny because I know a lot of people are saying Elizabeth Debicki is one of the biggest locks of the night. But after what happened last week with Shogun, I would argue she's probably the least locked out of all the drama categories. But I agree. Like this final season was able to bounce back after last season when it got single-digit nominations, basically snubbed across the board in acting except for Debicki. And I think I'd also would argue that Leslie Manville, I think, is a strong alternative to her because her episode, which got in for writing writs over when the series finale was also submitted. So it shows that, people were paying attention to that episode, and she just gives a very heartbreaking performance. And Imelda Staunton, I mean, she's always been great in everything from theater, from musical theater and on. And it's unfortunate that she will be the only portrayer of the queen to go empty-handed. But this is a very, despite the Shogun sweep, it is a very strong category for the drama series, with Slow Horses getting all the nominations it needed, Mr. and Mrs. Smith overperforming. There's just a wide variety of taste within this genre. While it may be a little boring to watch Shogun sweep through everything, as we're all certain it would be if we had to choose a sweep out of 3, but it's heartwarming to watch all those shows getting recognized in a year that was very barren with basically all the drama shows last year pretty much being ineligible.
That's a really good point, because for a long time we all thought that this would be a barren Emmys because of so many shows not being eligible, and perhaps maybe there being some out of left field contenders. But I think they really settled on a beautiful list of shows across the board. They're all very worthy, really well written, well directed, and beautifully acted. And I totally agree also in supporting actress. You know what, actually, I have been for weeks trying to formulate an argument for Christine Baranski. And I had her in front for a while because I'm super biased and was hope-dicting, because I just think that The Gilded Age Season 2 was, to me, such a revelation. I never watched Season 1 when it first came out. I just completely dismissed The Gilded Age as a show that I needed to watch. Then I smashed it out very quickly and realized, wow, that show is incredible. It's so beautifully done. And Christine Baranski is so good in it. And she's really, really, to me, overdue for that bookend Emmy that she, given that she first won her first Emmy a million years ago. So, yeah, I'm no longer on that train, I admit. And also, I can't travel out of the country if I haven't predicted Elizabeth Debicki, because obviously there's an Australian requirement that I always go for the Aussie. So that's why I'm now going for Elizabeth Debicki. But Daniel, would you suggest that is Elizabeth Debicki the lock that we all assume she is, or is there any room for an upset in supporting actress?
I really don't think so, unless it's Leslie Manville. the Gilded Age maybe because Christine Baranski, I believe, is the only one in the category who's not facing a vote split. So there is a possibility there. But I mean, the fact that Elizabeth Debicki, she beat Meryl for the Golden Globe, she won the SAG Award against lead actors. It just feels like the industry is behind this performance. So it's hard for me to see her losing it, even though like anything is possible.
True, anything is possible. I want to move on, if we can, to the limited categories for a little while. We expect Baby Ranger to do quite well, but there are a couple of categories there where it's really anyone's guess. And of course, that best actress in a movie or limited series is really wide open. Show of hands, who is predicting Jodie Foster? Okay, that would be me. And who is okay? Good. And so that means I'm going to go to you first, David. Who are you predicting?
I need to be persuaded off of this prediction. It's one I've had since the Prediction Center started, and I've just kept her for being stubborn. But I have Juno Temple. Now I know she missed SAG, and that's a big red flag. But I just feel like, number one, this season of Fargo was so well received, especially in comparison to season 4. It kind of had a resurgence across the board in terms of writing, directing, its acting nominations. And I think Juno Temple's performance is in large part one of the reasons it was so well received. She was so brilliant in that show. She clearly has industry support. She's a past multiple Emmy nominee for Ted Lasso. And I just feel like in a category that kind of up in the air, somebody that they like in a different role who right after season 3 of Ted Lasso wraps, she does something entirely different and is just so brilliant in it. I could see like those are the reasons why I've stuck with her, and I need to hear why I shouldn't, because if she happens to win out of nowhere, I'll be so upset that I dropped her last minute.
Yeah, you have to keep her in for that reason alone. I can see that happening. I think she was just so exceptional in Fargo, and she's the reason to me that that season of Fargo is so brilliant. She really pulls it together. She's such an amazing actor. I would love to see that happen. If she wins, I will be up on my feet clapping, and then I will be texting you to say that you got it right. But Chris, maybe dissuade us, because I'm wavering. I have Jodie Foster, and I'm not going to move. I can't do any more last minute changes. Can't do it. But I feel like, and I can even see Sofia Vergara taking it. I know you all think I'm crazy, but they're the 3 people I see actually winning this one are Jodie, Sophia, and Juno. I don't actually see a Brie Larson win here at all. That's just me. And Naomi Watts, again, I'm going to get into trouble. There's an Aussie in the mix, but I just can't see that happening. So, Chris, what about you? Do you try to dissuade David from predicting Juno Temple, perhaps?
I might not, because I actually was very close to predicting Juno Temple myself. And if Fargo's gonna win acting for the first time, that would be a perfect shot for her, because her performance is just completely different and shows how much range she has as an actress. But in terms of Jodie Foster, I think I'm just predicting her out of default because I can see a path for Juno Temple. I can see a path for Brie Larson. And the only time I doubted Jodie Foster was when True Detective didn't win anything at the Creative Arts, but neither did Fargo, even though it should have won music, but never mind. I just think there's been so many shows that have gotten double-digit nominations, close to the 20s, and at least walked away with one. I remember a couple years ago with Ozark, that was winning nothing until Julia Garner, and with the way they placed that category at the very end, we were all uncertain if Ozark was going to win anything that year. So I think because I don't believe there is such a strong alternative that can overtake Jodie Foster, who hasn't won an Emmy for anything. I think this is a time to just see her on stage and tribute her for this role, which you talk about Juno Temple being the stapler of Fargo. True Detective Night Country would not work the way it does without Foster's performance.
Wow. There's so much to think about here. Daniel, you did a show of hands for Jodie Foster, so we're on the same page. But how do you really feel about this category? Are you wavering at all?
Oh, I've been wavering from the very beginning. This is one of my least confident predictions, so I can't make any strong argument against Juno Temple. I think there's like a run of 3 women in this category who I think could get it, and that's Jodie and Bree and Juno Temple. Juno Temple did win our Gold Derby Award, so you never know. But Jodie Foster, the most nominated show in this category, True Detective got 19 nominations. It could win none of those. We've seen bigger shutouts at the Emmys, but the actors branch liked it. They nominated 3 of the actors for the show. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I'm going with her because of True Detective having the most nominations and Jodie Foster arguably having the most prestige, even though Brie Larson also has an Oscar.
It's tough, man. It's really freaking tough. Speaking of tough, we've got supporting actor as well. I think it's safe to say that Jessica Gunning, even though she has the amazing Nava Mao in her category in supporting actress, Jessica Gunning was really the standout performer from Baby Reindeer and perhaps maybe the TV season. I'm not trying to be too hyperbolic, but she was such a revelation that supporting actress is pretty clear. Actor is also kind of clear. Some argument was made in the previous segment that maybe Richard Gadd might not win there, and Andrew Scott or John Hamm or Matt Bomer or Tom Hollander could take it out. Supporting actor is also completely up in the air to me. And I had Jonathan Bailey for weeks and weeks. And then after my 25 categories in 25 minutes chat that I did with Chris last week, he convinced me that Tom Goodman-Hill is actually someone who could easily win this, and just kind of not only ride the coattails of Baby Reindeer, but also because his performance is so devastating and it's seeped into your skin. It's so creepy and so well calibrated. That's a very interesting category too, David, don't you think? How are you feeling about supporting actor, and have you landed on someone with certainty?
No, I'm sticking with Jonathan Bailey, but I am not certain. I think you're making great arguments as to why I should switch off of Jonathan Bailey, but I do feel like he's got passion for that performance. We don't know how much that translates to the, actual voters versus just, online, but he has passion. He's an award winner of stage and screen. He won Critics' Choice for this role. I think if people are going to remember that show and remember the performance, that's the trophy it's going to win. And I think, he's just having a moment too. Between that, he's in Wicked, the press and the promo is starting to really gin up. I just feel like you could see how all these factors could come together. I'm also just not 100% sold on a clean sweep for Baby Reindeer. I'm predicting it in most of the categories, but I'm just not quite ready to just tick off all for the Bear, all for Shogun, all for Baby Reindeer, and just call it a day. So I don't know if I'm overcomplicating it, but that's why I'm kind of sticking with Jonathan Bailey for now.
Okay. Chris, how do you feel about Jonathan Bailey? Because did many voters actually watch Fellow Travelers? I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. But I thought the same thing about Paul Walter Hauser for last year for Blackbird. And that got the same amount of nominations as Fellow Travelers, and he was still able to pull it off. He's probably honestly, that's the only reason, combined with everything David said, of why I'm predicting Bailey, because I feel like, he's been out there, he's campaigning. It's all about being in the moment during voting. And, Fellow Travelers does have that writing nomination, which just shows they're certain those branches are watching it. And given that this category is just such a toss up, other than him and Robert Downey, every other guy is from a nominated limited series, and no one's predicting any of them but I do see a path for Tom Goodman-Hill I think it's between him and Bailey, and I'm not confident at all. So,
Okay. Daniel, did I get your point of view on this category? Perhaps maybe you could just quickly chime in. What do you think?
I'm predicting Bailey. I'm not confident either. Everyone in this category is a risk to predict in some way or another. Bailey, I'm also looking back to Ben Whishaw for Very English Scandal. That didn't have that many nominations. I don't think it got into limited series, and he still won supporting actor. So I'm that's what's keeping me in the Jonathan Bailey camp. But Robert Downey Jr. could still win this. It reminds me of the Best Actor race from a few years ago when Mark Ruffalo managed to win for playing multiple roles on his show's only nomination for I Know This Much Is True. Tom Goodman Hill could win it if there's a baby reindeer sweep. I think that I still think that role is a little too small to beat some of these other performances if voters have seen enough of these performances. Louis Pullman, I think, is being underrated in this category. I think he's got a shot. If he wins, I could see Brie Larson following. It's a tough one, but yeah, Bailey just by a hair for me.
Okay. We have 4 minutes, and I need to know the category that you most want to talk about, that you're interested in. Chris, you go first.
Traders for a reality competition program. After RuPaul won nothing at the Creative Arts, and that has happened before. I think it happened like couple years ago with SNL. They lost most of the stuff to Black Lady Sketch Show and still was able to win variety sketch series. But I just think those losses are just so, especially for host, when he's won that consecutively and has never lost, unlike the show, which went to Lizzo one year. It's just giving me all these warning signs. And Traders is like very hot. This season is very hot. I think it just has that momentum, similar to like what I believe with Bailey. I think it just has that momentum to overtake RuPaul, and I could be wrong, but that's what I'm feeling.
David.
Yeah, I have Traders winning, by the way. I wanted to talk about drama writing because I think most of us have Crimson Sky out front for Shogun. I'm also just wondering, based on how well they kind of acknowledged many different episodes of that first season at the Creative Arts, if we might not see the series premiere win. I think most people feel like Crimson Sky is, the culmination, the high point of that season, but they do love pilots. They'll love awarding, writers for first episodes, series premieres, series finales. So that's one that I'm, worried that I'm choosing the wrong Shogun episode. I don't know how other people are.
I mean, it's a great episode too, Anjan, of course. Yeah, that's a possibility. Daniel, final word to you before I move on to this interloper that has arrived. Just kidding.
I'm one of the only limbs I'm going out on is Ripley for movie limited directing. I'm taking a shot on that one because Steven Zalian's nominated for the whole series. It's a more technical, it's a more quote unquote directed show. It feels like. Between the black and whites, it won for visual effects and for sound and for cinematography. So and it's up against just one episode of Baby Reindeer, which is a much subtler directorial effort. So that's where I'm going, and it's a little bit of a hope diction just because I really love Steven Zalian. I loved The Night Of also, so I'd love to see him win his first Emmy.
I mean, when you watch Ripley and you see what Steven Zalian was able to achieve in that beautiful, it's just so beautiful to look at. I hope you're right. And the Traders beating RuPaul's Drag Race, if it's going to happen at any time, it's now, not only because Alan Cumming won reality host, but also we have seen RuPaul's Drag Race lose before to Lizzo and her Big Girls Dancing Show, whatever that was called. And I'm going to say it. The last season of RuPaul's Drag Race was not its best. it wasn't one of its best seasons, and I watched every episode, and I know that it was great, but I've seen better seasons from the show than that, and perhaps the Traders might actually eke out this win, and that would be really exciting, something different. RuPaul's Drag Race will probably win again next year because it's that good of a show. All right, we have to let you guys go. Thank you so much for your amazing insights. I hope you have a great night tonight. Enjoy yourself. That's the whole point of this. I know we're all working, but it's an exciting night, and I hope you all get something out of tonight that you can really go, yes, I'm really happy with that. So thank you again for your time. We're going to move on now to our next group. Bye-bye. Okay. Now we have some trouble, everybody. I don't know what I'm going to do here. We have two of my favorite people on earth, Tony Ruiz dialing in from California and Charlie Bright dialing in from Virginia. Charlie, I'm really happy that you're here. You've given us some time out of your really busy schedule as the upcoming probably Lieutenant Governor of Virginia in the 2028 race. So thank you.
It's a do-nothing job. Gig.
Yeah, I don't know where to begin because there's so much to talk. Can we just pick up on the Traders v RuPaul's Drag Race? Show of hands, who has the Traders?
I finally switched to the Traders.
Okay.
I was part of that. You may during our first night, I was saying
Creative arts.
Yeah, that you could hear everybody once Alan Cumming won host, that everyone was just running over to the prediction center to switch over to the Traders. I feel somewhat confident in that, but I don't know if winning host alone is enough. Is enough to make me very confident in it. And for all we know, hell, it could still just win by default. We've seen other shows not be, even when they are very weak in creative arts, still just come up and win the program category. So I'm tentatively picking the Traders.
And what about you, Tony?
I don't care that much about reality television, so I just will go with the I'll just go with the group and say that every long running streak has to have an end. Even Susan Lucci eventually won an Emmy, so I think Cumming winning host gives the Traders a good shot to win.
Now, that's really interesting to me because until I see RuPaul's Drag Race actually lose, I know we've seen it before. I just feel like the Traders, it's on Peacock. I don't know. I just have this lingering doubt, but I'd love to see it. It'd be so exciting. So look, let's move on. We know that after what we've talked about so far, Baby Reindeer, The Bear, Shogun are going to be the big stories of the night. Tony, I know how upset you are because you really don't like Shogun as a show. You just think it's trash. So, no, I'm kidding. It's your favorite show on earth. It's the best thing you've ever seen. It's perfection. So tell me, though, if it wasn't such a huge threat to take everything out, would you suggest that there are any other shows that are even close to perhaps maybe surprising us in something tonight?
A lot of people have been talking about Slow Horses and The Crown. I actually think that Mr. and Mrs. Smith would be a more, a more possible contender. It got all the nominations it needed to get. It picked up Michaela Cole at Creative Arts. And knowing that there's just kind of a cool factor about it that I think would make it a much more if there was maybe like a vote split in directing for Shogun, like if Shogun had another episode in there, I think maybe there could be other avenues. Like, if I could see a Mr. and Mrs. Smith winning something in there, but yeah. And I think The Crown also, but to me, I never really bought the Slow Horses argument. Yeah, it got into where it needed to get into, but I feel like the buzzier shows were always The Crown and Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah, it's going to bring me a lot of joy to see how excited and happy you're going to be tonight, because I know how much Shogun means to you. You did all the interviews for Gold Derby for that show. Beautiful, amazing interviews as usual. So I'm going to give this to you tonight, Tony. Normally I just want to say, no, you're wrong and you've got terrible taste, but I'm going to let you win tonight. Charlie,
Thank you, oh gracious one.
Charlie, what about you? What are you sensing in drama? If we're going to see a surprise from someone or something, what could it be?
I feel like it would be probably The Crown, because that's your more traditional thing, and it would. And a lot of us were thinking before Shogun moved from limited to drama that it was The Crown was going to be that winner by default. Though I don't really feel, and I don't really, it's hard to kind of even gauge that question, because all the other what we predict will be also rants kind of just feel like they're just kind of there, even ones that did very well, like Mr. and Mrs. Smith and Fallout, both getting double-digit nominations. But it's just like it's just kind of, I feel like The Crown would just kind of be that default winner.
Yeah, I think you're right too.
Moving on to it's the only one here that's it's the only one here that is a proven winner in these categories.
That's correct. That's
the
exactly
only
right.
one that the morning show has been able to win as was supporting actor for its first year for Billy Crudup.
Well, let's talk about supporting actor, because a lot of people have had Billy Crudup in the lead for some time, including myself. I then had Jack Lowden for a little while. I'm just so impressed with him on Slow Horses. I just think he's so great to watch.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy he was nominated. And then, of course, I've always been a real proponent for the vote splitting. I just feel like vote splitting is a thing, and anyone who tells you otherwise maybe isn't being completely honest. It does happen, and sometimes if there's passion enough behind a particular contender, vote splitting isn't a thing. But in supporting actor, having Tadanobu Asano and Takahiro Hira nominated together, there has to be at least an argument against either of them taking this out. So, Tony, why is Asano so in the lead, according to Gold Derby, in this category?
I've had Tadanobu in since the beginning, because from the very first episode of this show, this was a character that just jumped off the screen from the second you saw him. He is so much more. He's such a dynamic character. He's kind of in your face schemer, but capable of both comedy and drama, capable of being kind of a winking villain, but also having some real depth to him. So I always kind of had him out front. I think that if the actor's name who's escaping me right now, I think if a different Shogun actor had been nominated in supporting, the one who kills himself in episode 8, in front of Tornaga, I think if he had been nominated, particularly with that episode, I think we would have a real vote split. I think the problem that Takahiro faces is that character is pretty much stationary through the entire season. He is just kind of like sitting and prognosticating his future victory, but it's not the dynamic performance that Tadanobu gives. And so I've always had Tadanobu in front. I think that's just one of those characters that in the most popular show gets taken along for the ride. I actually think if Shogun was to only win one acting award, I think that's the one I would be the most passionate about.
Wow, that's a big call, I think that actually makes a lot of sense to me. And let's also remember, in supporting actor and actress, there are a lot of contenders from the morning show that I feel will just completely cancel each other out. You also have Jonathan Pryce in The Crown, and of course, Billy Crudup has won before. So there's a lot going on here that could happen, but Asano looks to be the most in front. Charlie, are you on the same page in drama supporting actor?
Yeah, I feel like Asano is a pretty safe bet here. The thing that stands out to me about this category, I was looking at these nominees, and when I look at Jack Lowden, I mean, he's basically really a lead on that show, and because I think he's really the main character on the show, because he's really when the show starts, it's his storyline that is our entrance into this world. And if the Emmys were a little different, I could see that being a factor that could play into an upset there. But I don't think that's going to happen. And so that's why I feel like for at first it was kind of just it was Crudup was kind of the default, but now it feels like Asano is the pretty clear-cut front runner here.
Okay. I want to do something a little different now for a little while and talk about a couple of categories we haven't talked about yet. Normally we skip over the variety stuff because we just feel like, oh yeah, it's just Last Week Tonight and Saturday Night Live. But in variety scripted series, 2 nominees, Last Week Tonight and Saturday Night Live. And normally Last Week Tonight wins all the time. But last weekend at the Emmys, Saturday Night Live did really well. And it had a pretty strong season. And I feel like this category is up in the air. Tony, what do you feel about the variety scripted series category?
I've been pretty comfortable sticking with Last Week Tonight for this reason alone. I think a lot of the wins that the SNL picked up are tech wins. And that is certainly a more tech-driven, craft-driven show. Not to take anything away from the craft at Last Week Tonight. But then when you just compare them in terms of the subject matter, of the weight of the shows, and what John Oliver manages to do week after week, on a variety of topics with comedy and with seriousness and with facts. And I just think I think Last Week Tonight matters more in terms of the quote unquote important factor. So I think that when giving it a series prize, I think that makes sense. And it also makes sense for SNL to pick up all those tech prizes.
And Charlie, do you agree?
Yeah, I'm on the exact same page. I think you also throw in the fact that we're in the middle of the presidential election year, and right now, and so it just feels like the show. I mean, the show's always relevant, but it feels like it's even more relevant now, especially during. It always feels like during election year, during a major election year, it's one of those types of things. So I feel pretty much on solid ground with Last Week Tonight. I feel pretty solid about that.
Yeah, the election year thing is really important. Although, I mean, I could have maybe made an argument for that for Saturday Night Live as well. I think its strongest areas are when it's making fun of politicians, especially.
The problem with that, though, is that those types of skits, those are going to be coming in the upcoming season, not the season that just happened. That's right.
Exactly right. So. And by the way, I'm actually looking forward to a little bit of political humor tonight. I hope just so that Sean Hannity has something to scream about tomorrow, because they're kind of running out of things to talk about.
He's going to have plenty. He's going to have plenty with those damn Canadians hosting.
Oh, I know. Like, we've got to make America great again.
They're coming. They're coming across the border and taking American jobs.
Yeah.
Only they're
black
eating
jobs.
moose.
Or, yeah, they're taking black jobs because of last year's host did an amazing job, Anthony Anderson. Variety talk series as well in an election year. You would think The Daily Show, right, Charlie?
Yeah, and I think the fact that it's that Jon Stewart's back, and the fact that it managed to pull off that victory last year, I think that to me that's one of the big things that has me pretty confident with picking in that category. It's also the one that stands out. It's the one that's the most different because the others are your standard late night talk show hosts. And basically it also feels like, the material, especially like when it comes to political stuff and current events, that they're all, especially Late Show with Steve Colbert, because Steve Colbert's from there, they're all taking that format from The Daily Show that The Daily Show really perfected in the 2000s.
Isn't it interesting, Charlie, as well, that the behemoth that is Last Week Tonight was kind of shunted out of the category with all the other late night shows, and now it's competing with Saturday Night Live.
It does feel appropriate though, because for everything, there really aren't guests on Last Week Tonight, so it actually feels very appropriate that it is not in a variety talk or a talk series anymore.
That's right. I think so too. And so now we really have a competition here Tony, do you think that the Daily Show has this one wrapped up, or is it open?
I think it's the safe front runner. I agree with everything Charlie said. If I had a hope for an upset, I would love to see Jimmy Kimmel win because I know that would make Donald Trump's head explode. And I think Kimmel is I think the funniest of the group, and I would also love to see Seth Meyers. I think his show has really found its own kind of identity on late night. So I'd be happy really with whoever wins here, but I think that Daily Show kind of stands apart from them.
And I think it would also be a great testament to. I think it'd be a great testament to the outstanding to the cast of the Daily Show, because they've really been stepping up. And I mean, they never haven't been stepping up, but they've been doing. But they've been the correspondents that have been alternating as hosts. You know, Ronnie Chang, Michael Costa, Jordan Klepper, and Desi Lydic are all just absolutely fantastic, and I love watching each one of them for their own specific reasons. So that would be a great way to give them some recognition, even though they wouldn't be getting a trophy.
Actually, not true. They would. I'm looking at the Emmy ballot right now, and they are all listed as hosts.
Really?
Yeah,
that's great.
Okay, because the one I have that I printed before Creative Arts did not have them listed. Or wait,
nope. Okay. I've got it right here. They're on there.
Okay, well, really then good for them on that. Then I'm rooting even harder for them on that one.
Yeah, Desi Lydic is so funny. Ronnie Chang,
and she's such a sweetheart.
Yeah, I'd love that.
And I love Jordan Klepper. Jordan Klepper is so much fun to talk to.
It's a category that I really love all of them. But I'd be happy for any of them to win. So I'm excited about that part of the night. I need to talk about something else now that really has hit me over the last few days. Don't you love it in this line of work when we watch things that we maybe not normally would have watched? Because, you know, this is what we do. We want to talk. We want to be informed. And then it's something, you witness something on TV and you think, wow. Well, I had that moment on Saturday, which was yesterday for you guys, for Alex Edelman, Just For Us. I admit I'd never heard of him. It's not like I'm pretty clued into a lot of pop culture that just for some reason I had a blind spot. So I watched it and thinking to myself, well, here we go, another comedy special. It's probably going to be a few laughs and then I'll get over it. And I watched it all and I was stunned by how good it was, stunned by how amazing the writing, the delivery, just everything about that performance that he gives from his Broadway show, I assume. Alex Edelman must win, I hope, variety special writing. It's so good. And it's a really strong category. You've got John Early, Mike Birbiglia, Jacqueline Novak, and the Oscars. And the Oscars won a few Emmys last weekend, so we know that the Oscars are back on the radar for Emmy voters. But I really feel like Alex Edelman is going to become a huge, huge star and really cross over into pop culture generally. I hope so, because that special really blew me away. Tony, what are your thoughts on that category?
I have a little personal connection here because I went to see the great Phil Rosenthal at an event here in Sacramento, and his kind of co-host for the evening was Alex Edelman. And I thought to myself, ooh, that's that guy from the Broadway show that was on, I think it was Max. And I was like, oh, I really always meant to watch that. And I got a chance to talk to him afterwards, and he had just spoken to Matt Noble, and he was very aware of where he stood in the odds at Gold Derby. And so he was asking me, so what do you think? You think I've got a good shot? I was like, yeah, I think you got a good shot. This was before the nominations came out. And so and it wasn't until after then that I actually watched the special. I really do think there's something about that special that's just so, it's kind of like, it's so smart. It's so, it wraps you up in like a warm blanket. You feel good after that show. And it has kind of the Broadway cachet attached to it. So I'm really feeling good about Alex.
Yeah, I feel like he's a storyteller. It reminded me of Hannah Gadsby, her first main show that was nominated as well at the Emmys. I just feel like he tells this story and threads this needle throughout the whole, with little jokes here and there. But by the end of it, you're just like, wow, what a story. Charlie, how do you feel about this category?
I feel like Alex Edelman feels pretty safe in this one. I would also love to see Mike Birbiglia win. He is an incredible storyteller. Like you said, his stand-up specials, some of which have been on Broadway as well, don't feel like stand-up specials. They feel more like one-man shows. And he's someone who's been celebrated for a while. And I feel like he's someone to keep an eye on, especially because this is something that's specifically voted for by writers. I would also love to see John Early win. John Early's been having this wonderful career trajectory for the past decade, I'd say, with roles on like Bob's Burgers and The Great North, and also Search Party, and I mean he's just kind of been everywhere. But I do feel, and I would love to see the Oscars win, because I would love to see. I don't know who would accept it on behalf of the writers, but I would hope for Louis Vertel, because I think he's just one of the funniest people on the planet. It's also not fair that he is that jacked. If you've seen his Instagram feed, but I think Alex Edelman's a pretty safe bet here.
And that category is going to be announced by just reading here: Seth Meyers, Maya Rudolph, Kristen Wiig, and Bowen Yang, in a tribute to Saturday Night Live, and they'll announce the category. I'm more excited almost for the presenters sometimes than I am for the winners, but it's going to be a really good night. They've really put together a great list of presenters, by the way, everybody. So that's really exciting. I want to move on to a different category now that we haven't really talked about directly, and that is, and it seems a bit random, but I'm bringing it up for a reason: movie limited writing. The nominees there are Baby Reindeer, Black Mirror, True Detective, Ripley, Fargo, and Fellow Travelers. That's a killer. That's a killer category. And I know Baby Reindeer is out front, and it will most likely win that. But I tell you what, if it wasn't Baby Reindeer, well, even if it was, for me, I would be giving that win to the Joan is Awful episode of Black Mirror that was nominated. Every time I think about Salma Hayek in that episode and how brilliant she is, I just think that really blew my mind. It was an amazing episode from an amazing series. How do you guys feel about the movie limited writing, generally speaking? I'll go to you first, Tony. And then, of course, what would you suggest would be one or two of the limited series or movies that might actually sneak a win here and there if Baby Reindeer doesn't sweep?
Well, if Baby Reindeer doesn't sweep, I would probably say that that Ripley would be in a good position for this. My heart in this category is with Ron Neiswaner for Fellow Travelers. I just think that entire show was so beautifully done. To take a book, and a lot of people don't know this, this is a book that really only focuses on a brief period of time. There is so much in this show that is not a part of the book that was expanded on by Ron Neiswaner and Dan Minahan, that they were able to take and open up this canvas to cover this nearly 3.5-4 decade period of queer history in a way that is, I think, going to be so helpful to young queer people in the future to see this history in front of them, to have something for their generation that I certainly never had. So, I mean, that's where my heart is. But I think Ripley is kind of the alternative to, and I would love Fargo to be an alternative. I think this is the best season of Fargo since season 2. And we can get to the other categories in that. But I mean, my heart's with Fellow Travelers.
Yeah, I knew that. That's why I went to you first. I remember you telling me that Fellow Travelers completely destroyed you, and
oh yeah,
and that made me want to watch it. And I watched it. I didn't watch it all. It wasn't really my cup of tea, but I totally understood why people love that show. It's beautifully made. Charlie, how do you feel about the limited?
So homophobic of you, Rob, especially during
I can't watch everything, man. I have to sleep at some point.
No excuses. But the interesting thing is that even if Baby Reindeer wasn't projected to be sweeping, the two categories that I would actually feel like it would have the best, that would be most secure in, are supporting actress and this one actually. I feel like the writing one would be is one of its stronger possibilities here. I feel I'm like Tony. Fellow Travelers just like broke me. It's so devastating and it's so good on so many levels. But the writing is where the writing and the performances is where it really excelled. Can we also just pour one out for Allison Williams, who should be in the supporting actress category? She was fantastic in that, especially in that final episode.
The final episode, man.
Yeah, the two scenes she has, the one with Jonathan Bailey and the one with Matt Bomer, are just unbelievable. I really feel like that. It felt like it was doing, especially because of the way that it reflected the AIDS storyline of it. You know, because a lot doing an AIDS storyline can feel so like such treaded road that it's just like it's been done and you see someone suffering and that. But this one, it did not feel like that. It felt different and it felt much more digestible and it felt much more meaningful. Again, also I would love to see. I wish they could just nominate the whole season of Fargo, because that whole season was so incredible. And I think it's the best season since season 1, actually. Because season 2, I was much more mixed on than a lot of other people were. I would love to see Fargo win this, but I'll be very happy with a Baby Reindeer win here.
Now we have 4 minutes to go, so I'd like to hear from the two of you. You've got 2 minutes each to tell us that one category or the one thing that you want to raise that you're excited about or you think we need to look out for. Tony, you're going first.
I feel really good about Jonathan Bailey winning. And I heard Chris and I think Daniel reference the comparison to somebody like Ben Whishaw or Paul Walter Hauser. I think why Bailey has the edge there is because there are so many different ways that voters could go. Again, when you have a front runner, it's usually helpful if there's one alternative. I think that there's a lot of alternatives. I think every single other person in that category has pluses to them. And so I'm going to just default to the one that has actually won stuff for this role and who actually, in many ways, is the heart and soul of Fellow Travelers. Plus, Jonathan Bailey's on a rise. He's on a rocket ship between Wicked and the new Jurassic movie, and he's going to be doing Shakespeare in London, and he's just going to be everywhere. He's just going to be one of those actors that goes back and forth between a bunch of different things. I'm sticking with Hannah Einbinder. I feel really confident in predicting her in the glorious 3rd season of Hacks. I am predicting The Bear for writing. I think Fishes is just too strong of an episode for Hacks to take it out. And I am also looking forward, after I saw the presenters, I am really looking forward to the West Wing reunion as they present drama series to Shogun.
I'm so excited about the West Wing. We've got Dule Hill, Alison Janney, Janelle Maloney, Richard Schiff, and Martin Sheen presenting drama series to Shogun. And it's going to be amazing for all of us West Wing nutters. That's going to be really exciting. Charlie, you've got the final word.
I'm definitely. I think probably the marquee. As I said last week, I think the marquee category of the night is drama. Is limited series actor. I think the breadth of that talent and those performances is just off the charts. I do feel very comfortable in Richard Gadd in winning that because he has that the episode where he breaks down on stage, which is just like it's just incredible to watch. But I mean, you also have people like Matt Bomer, John Hamm. His nipple rings should be nominated in supporting actor. And you also have Andrew Scott. It's just that category is an embarrassment of riches, and whoever wins, it's going to be a deserved win on that one. I know that David was bringing it up earlier. I so want to see Juno Temple win lead actress in a limited series, and I really just wish we could see more. I wish we could see a win for What We Do in the Shadows somewhere tonight, especially if it was Matt Berry or drama or comedy series. It ain't going to happen, but God, it would be great.
I remember writing to the two of you in one of our group chats 2 weeks ago, just wishing that Matt Berry could take that one out, because every time he's on that show, I'm laughing. He's just so wonderful.
Just the way he says something in his accent, is just priceless. Gay is some gay it's going to be. It's just like
it just talks like this, and now it's time for Charlie and Tony to leave.
The most devious bastard in New York City.
To bugger off.
Thank you. Bugger off, both of you, and thank you so much for your insight today. Have a great night, enjoy, and no doubt I'll be hearing from you both throughout the evening as usual.
And we'll see you. And we'll see you at the post show.
We'll see you at the post show.
All right, let's move on to our final two guests of the night, and that will be drum roll. Where are you people? Are you joining us? Maybe not. Okay, maybe it's just you and me, Charlie. Maybe. It's
all right,
just
I'll stick around.
What's happening? I'm confused. I feel like we're trying to find which stretch. God damn it!
All right,
there we are.
You guys got your things. I'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye, Charlie.
Speaking of West Wing Nutters, we have Matt Noble joining us, and I feel like there's a sound delay. I'm not sure what's going on there, but anyway.
I'm getting an echo.
Yeah. And Tom, welcome again, dialing in from home screens. Oh, I hate hearing my voice. That's really terrible. If you could both mute for a sec, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Sure. Mute.
Where's the mute button? Okay. Yeah. So it's one of you. Okay. Now, Matt, if you could unmute for a sec.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So it could be Tom. So Tom, you stay on mute until you're talking. Okay. All right. So Matt, where do we begin? Because we've really tried to cover the bases here. I'm just wondering, I don't know how much you've heard so far, but what have we really not spoken about yet? Or is there any point that you want to make that hasn't been made already that you really want everyone to hear because you really honestly believe that something really interesting might happen tonight?
I think like the upsets I'm predicting is in the limited acting races. I think Brie Larson might take it out. I feel like there's a lot of support for lessons in chemistry. There's not a baby reindeer factor there. So, that's sort of probably my like upset prediction of tonight. I think like interesting is though Imelda Staunton in The Crown, and like the finals called Sleep Dearie Sleep, but people might be sleeping on her because every queen has won for that second season. And I had her in my prediction for a while. I predicted Olivia Colman to win that second one that year. The reason I took Imelda out was because, why did I take Imelda out? I took her out because she didn't get nominated for the first season. And I think in the two previous queen wins in that category, the dynamics of the race looked a bit different. So Olivia Colman was up against Emma Corrin for the queen, and they, went with the queen over Diana in that race. So it's sort of someone from her own show. And, Claire Foy didn't win, like wasn't competing at someone in the best ultimate best drama series winner in that race as well. So I think in the drama race, the actress one could be where I could see an upset, to be honest, but it's going to be the Shogun show probably tonight.
The Shogun show. Hey, Matt, I think that's actually a really good point. You've made me reconsider how strong Anna Sawai is in that category only because of the Staunton factor. And will she be the only queen from The Crown to not ever win an Emmy? Maybe not. Maybe it actually might happen. You've got a really good point there. Do you think that sorry?
Go. Oh no, I was going to switch gears. So go, Rob. What were you going to say?
No, please let's switch gears. You tell me what else you think is something that we need to know.
Something that hasn't been talked about much is Curb Your Enthusiasm, and this is its 11th nomination for Best Comedy Series tonight. It's not going to take out the prize, which means like the only other comedies that have ever been nominated in this race 11 times are Cheers and MASH, and that means and they both won Best Comedy Series. So Curb's going to go out tonight as being the most nominated best comedy series, like in that category, not to win. And actually, you need to go all the way down to 6. The Larry Saunders show is nominated in that category 6 times and didn't win, but any other show that's been nominated 6 or more times in that category other than the Larry Saunders show has gone on to win best comedy series at some point in its career.
Right.
And on the drama side, it's sort of the same. Since Elsewhere had 6 nominations without a win, Better Call Saul had 7 nominations without a win, but they're the only 2 shows that have that many. So like Curb getting 11 nominations for best comedy series and not winning one is pretty historic.
It's actually it's really unfortunate for Curb Your Enthusiasm that it hasn't been able to win that one, and it didn't really get anything else of note apart from Larry David. It's a shame because I thought that final season was one of its strongest. It was hilarious.
Yeah,
really, really good. Okay, we have Tom back, which is great news. I was worried that there was going to be some major catastrophe in Palm Springs, but there isn't. So, Tom, how do you feel about Best Actress in a Drama? Matt and I have been discussing that maybe Imelda Staunton is more of a surprise dark horse contender than people are giving her credit for. Where are you on that train of thought?
I am really not that high on Imelda. Not that she's not good, but I think the ship is gone on the Crown, with a few exceptions along the way. I think it's going to be hard to stop the Shogun train. And I think Anna has that episode 9 that's just a killer. And as good as Imelda is this season, I don't think anything can top what Anna did in that.
All right. Well, then on that note, then, is there anything that you are keeping your eye open for, something that might actually shock everybody that you already have a sneaking suspicion might actually happen?
Well, you know what? The long shots that I thought of early on are now becoming favorites, like Asano and Jonathan Bailey. I don't know if much is going to derail the Bear Shogun Baby Reindeer train. I think in comedy, I suspect that Hack's best chance, I think, is in directing, other than Einbender. Because there's 2 Shogun, there's 2 Bear entries, and Hax has won this category before. I'm not sure that Fishes can be beat in writing, but I think we might find a little bit of an upset there. I'm wondering too about Debicki in supporting actress. If indeed the Crown is not really top of mind for folks, is she vulnerable? I mean, the advantage she has at all those morning show nominees.
That's right. And the SAG nomination and win that really blew us all out of the water because it's just showing her strength. But for weeks, I've had Debicki in second because I just didn't think the Crown really had enough oomph to take anything out tonight. I've changed it. I've gone back to Debicki. You know, we have a majority of Australians in this segment, so you know we're just going to completely get super patriotic. She is dynamic, brilliant as Diana. She's not in a lot of that season though, and that was my argument the whole time. She's already won. She's yesterday's news. We're going to give it to someone else. We're going to give it to a legend like Christine Baranski in The Gilded Age, or Leslie Manville, who is just amazing in The Crown as well. But Matt, are you just feeling that this one's a safe one that we don't even really have to really get too excited about because Elizabeth has this one wrapped up?
She could lose it, but it's not something that I'm like stressing too much about because there's, I think, races which are a bit more in question than this one. I do think not having The Crown doesn't look like it's going to have a good night, but if Shogun didn't exist, I think would be talking about it in most categories being competitive in that first or second slot. So the fact there's no Shogun in this race, I think, Debicki, I think there's not that clear alternate person that if it wasn't her, this is who it would go with, which I think also helps her. So I think she's going to win it. And maybe, like, you know, if she does win tonight, you know, maybe Emma Corrin a few years ago should have gone to the supporting race rather than going toe to toe with the Queen in lead. Yeah.
So I want to talk about lead actress in a comedy because Jean Smart seems to be pretty comfortably safe there, even with Ayo Edebiri, who is, you know, part of the Bear juggernaut and is a winner already in supporting. And she's just moving up. Her meteoric rise as a real superstar in our pop culture and in TV means that she's definitely a contender. But there's someone else in this category, Tom, that I just wanted to give a shout out to, and that's Kristen Wiig in Palm Royale, because she's a 12-time Emmy loser, and I think she now has the record for the most non-wins. I don't want to call her a loser because she's certainly not that. She's freaking amazing. I would be over the moon to see a Kristen Wiig win. Not likely going to happen. But I just wonder, is there any way that Jean Smart or Ayo Edebiri don't win comedy actress, or do you feel, Tom, that it's really a two-horse race?
I honestly, much as I would love a Wig upset, and boy, wouldn't she be fun in her acceptance speech, because she'd be as shocked as the rest of us. But I think it's Edebiri and Smart. And if I was going to judge Smart leading up to that final episode, Bulletproof, I'd say that Edebiri had a chance. But the drama that Smart brings to that Bulletproof episode and the toe-to-toe with Einbinder it's just television heaven. And I can't see the voters passing that by.
You're totally right. Hannah Einbinder as well. My God, they really just impressed the hell out of me, particularly in that finale. Matt, do you feel like Hacks are going to take those two categories without much competition, or do you feel like it's close?
I think Einbinder, I'm more comfortable about Einbinder than I am Smart. That being said, I think the Bear is really strong. We saw how well it did last year at the Emmys. This is just the show the Emmy voters like. It could just romp through and sweep the categories. That would not surprise me at all tonight and gives me some hesitation. I think lead actress particularly because Edebiri won last year and she's like, you know, her buzz and her rise and all that sort of stuff. She's definitely a contender for Smart, a contender against Smart. I'm like, if I was a voter, I would find it hard to split the two. I think Jean Smart gives this powerhouse, comedic, dramatic, wonderful performance. Edebiri does stuff I think no other actors do as well as she does on TV. Like the little shifts that she does by saying so little, the nuances, like, you know, you've got in her like the perfect nuanced performance. Like, and I love it. It's one of my, like, it might be my favorite performance on TV. Then Jean Smart, one of the biggest rashes, and I'm going to go with the big one and go with Jean Smart. But boy, I love what they both do on TV, and they both bring something so different to the table. And it's wild, like, to know who's going to win that. But I think maybe Smart is the best way.
She's so damn good. You know, when I'm thinking about what I would vote for, I sometimes like to go for the underdog or a show that maybe not everyone else is voting for. So, for example, in comedy series, even though The Bear for me was next level because of Honeydew, Fishes and Forks, those 3 episodes just changed me as a person. I loved them that much. But I would have voted for Only Murders in the Building. I thought that 3rd season was just incredible. But I'd still be voting for Jean Smart because that's how damn good she is in Hacks. And then on the comedy actor side, I'd vote for Matt Berry. Supporting actress is difficult, though, because for months, I thought Liza Colon-Zayas was so impressive in The Bear. There's a particular episode, I can't remember which one, where it's about her moving up in the world, and she does so much with her eyes. And I just thought, well, I hope other people cotton on to this performance. The fact that she's nominated brings me so much joy. She could actually win. So there's that. Although, if I'm talking about the funniest person, Janelle James, every time she's on the screen in Abbott Elementary, I'm laughing.
I love the comedy category this year. I'm like, absolutely
Yeah.
like last year, drama. You know, I loved the drama race. I was passionate about a lot of those shows. The comedy lineup was good. And this year I'm feeling the same way. I think the drama lineup's strong too. But, you know, I yesterday ranked the comedy series from my favorite to least favorite. I really liked the show I had at the bottom of that list.
Yeah.
Like, they're all so good. And the range, you know, Reservation Dogs. What a wonderful little
Finally.
Finally.
At last.
Yeah, like What We Do in the Shadows, hilarious. Royale, such a great and different type of storytelling to the other shows nominated. You've got The Bear and Hacks and Only Murders. Like, for me, Curb and Only Murders were the two best of the year, and they're like not even really in the conversation this year. So like,
No,
it's true.
And Hacks and The Bear are great too. So like, I just love that lineup so much.
Yep. And throw in Abbott Elementary on top of it. So
could
hilarious.
Hacks win if it wins the both acting awards? Like The Bear did so well on the weekend. It's hard to imagine a world where Hacks wins, but Hacks wasn't really expected to win much last weekend. It's not the kind of show that's going to do well in creative arts.
I would posit that it's possible that the slightly disappointing season 3 of The Bear, which we're not voting on, but I think many people were disappointed in the direction that the season 3 of The Bear. Could that be a little mental thing? Because the season 3 of Hacks that we are voting on is just so superb.
It really is.
There is a sentiment that The Bear, rightly or wrongly, isn't a comedy. So like, you know, will that I'm pretty comfortable with The Bear in comedy series, but I think of like Shogun, Baby Reindeer, The Bear. The one that I could see losing the top award is The Bear. And that's partly because the biggest competitor to The Bear, we didn't get much of a read at the creative arts into its strength, because really it was actress races. And like, the hard thing is Fishers is such a standalone iconic episode that it's going to be hard for that to lose the writing and directing. So like, you know,
Matt, I think you're onto something, because I think Hacks is the strong of all of those 3 categories, drama, limited series, and comedy. Hacks is the strongest second place finisher in each, compared to each of the categories.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm saying there's someone who loved Fargo. Like, I'd love, Fargo's my favorite of all the sort of like non-winning shows tonight, or the shows that we've not predicted that aren't in that number one spot. But yeah. Rob, do you have a question, Rob?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Do you want to see the board?
Before you do, sorry, I just want to let everyone know you've got 3 minutes to make your last minute predictions before the prediction center is closed. So get on to that. Go ahead, Matt.
Do you want to see the Emmy board? See how we're going with?
Yes, we're waiting for the Emmy board. I'm so excited about.
I love your Emmy board.
We've got to have the Emmy board. So
we got
really well done. Look at that.
Shogun 14. It's already broken the record. John Adams had 13 going to the Emmy. So Shogun, if it wins all its categories tonight, goes up to 20. So it even goes off the board if if Shogun takes it out tonight. Just to put it into context, Game of Thrones 3 times 112, which was the record for drama series. The actually only show, West Wing won 9 for its first season. They're presenting the Best Drama Series Award tonight. That was a record that stood for a decade before rules to the Emmys voting changed, and Game of Thrones then just went boom, boom, boom and beat it 3 times. The record for Best Comedy Series at the Emmys is 10 on The Bear, and that is the only show that could, let's say Shogun loses everything tonight, The Bear wins everything tonight, they both tie on 14. I know that's not going to happen, but that's the only show that even theoretically can touch Shogun this year. Here's our other, and here's sort of the rest. The Crown is the drama Crown, Mr. and Mrs. Smith and The Morning Show, all on 2 Emmys a piece. The Crown is nominated. The Crown actually nominated more categories tonight than Shogun. So The Crown could go up to 9 if it were to sweep everything. Again, not going to happen. Mr. and Mrs. Smith and The Morning Show nominated in less, so their ceilings are sort of 6 and 7 respectively. The only other comedy series on more than 1 Emmy win so far is Only Murders in the Building on 3. If it won everything tonight, goes up to 8, overtakes The Bear if The Bear were to lose everything. And How I Met Your Father's on 2, but that's not nominated for any tonight. That could go up to Hacks, though. Hacks could go up to, that's nominated 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 categories tonight. Hacks could go up to 6. And then you've got Ripley is on 3, Baby Reindeer is on 2 in the limited series category. Both of those could go up to 8 if they win everything. Tonight's going to be a big night for Baby Reindeer. They both can't go up to 8 because they're competing against each other in a lot of categories. Yeah. And then with the other shows from the other creators, Saturday Night Live has 2 more nominations tonight. They're sitting on 6. They could go up to 8. But there you go. That's the state of the Emmy play.
State of the race.
State of the race.
After the Emmys, make sure everyone you come back for our post show hosted by Matt. We will start with Chris Rosen and Joyce Eng, who will be regaling us all with their comments, queries, questions, concerns, and feedback. And then after those two, we will then move on to myself, Charlie, and Tony Ruiz. So it's going to be a fun night. Before we go, I just thought we would just finish this off with one last final thought. Watch out for this. I want this to happen. Please let this happen. I'm praying, whatever. Tom, what do you think? Is there something that just is keeping you up at night or that you're just excited about?
I know that you've talked about this earlier in the program, but count me in for the traders. Geez, that show has entertained me as much as any show this year. And Rob, you're absolutely right. I love Drag Race too, seen every episode and a lot of the internationals. Not the greatest season. Well, not a good mix of queens this year. So, and Traders, that season 2, when it was just reality show stars, those folks know how to make moments pop. And did they ever? It was just delightful television. And I would be so happy to see it win.
Good call. Matt?
Yeah, I guess for me, I'd love to see. I'm predicting Brie Larson, but I'd love to see Juno, and Brie Larson would be a great winner. But I'd love to see Juno Temple or John Hamm take out an Emmy for Fargo. To think that was the best. Yeah. That was my favorite thing on TV. That and the Curb Your Enthusiasm season final were my 2 favorite seasons of TV this year. So I'd love to see Fargo get a surprise acting win somewhere. That'd be cool. Yeah, and I think with the others is nothing not some race I'm particularly stressed about this year. I think I've just sort of generally gone for the Bear, Baby Reindeer, and Shogun, and we'll just see where that all lands.
Yeah.
Other than Gene Smart and Hannah Hine facts. So
it's a pretty smart way to do it. You know what? This is what I want. I want a really fun show. Yes. I want them to try not to play off the winners. We're here to watch these winners reach the pinnacle of their career to date. And I want to see them with tears in their eyes and saying thank you to whoever they want to thank. I also want a good show with good writing, good banter, good comedy bits. I want to see clips if we can see them for the nominees. Please. And I would love some suspense. I love surprises. For example, can you just imagine if someone like DeFero Wunatai won for Best Comedy Actor? Something like that would I would have goosebumps. It would just be an amazing achievement for anyone like that to actually take home an award. So we'll see. You just don't really know at the end of the day.
I was just going to say, how inspired are the Levies as hosting choices?
Very, very, very good.
Great idea.
We spoke with Eugene Levy, unfortunately, a week before he was announced as host, so we didn't get to ask him about any of that sort of stuff. But it was nice that he made the time for Gold Derby this Emmy season.
Yeah, they are such smart comic actors that I can't help but think they'll, demand good material. At least I'm hoping.
Yeah, let's hope for the best. Look, I think we might wrap it up there. It gives everyone enough time to go to the bathroom, make a cup of tea, go and get a glass of wine, whatever is your poison. But what's most important is this. Enjoy the show. We do so much work and effort leading up to the Emmys here at Gold Derby. And of course, if it wasn't for all of the viewers and voters and fans and the community that we have assembled at Gold Derby, then there would be no point. And we're really appreciative that you're all watching. We're really appreciative for all of your comments and your predictions. So please join us after the show. We'll have a bit of a rundown and feedback about what we thought. We'll talk about surprises. We'll talk about how good the show was or how bad the show was. Hopefully not. And then we move on to the Oscars. It just never ends. It never, ever ends. And that's okay with me. Thank you, both of you, for joining us this afternoon or this evening, depending on where you are in the world. Matt and I are going to go and get really warm because it's freezing here in Sydney, and have a lovely night. And we'll catch up after the show.
Great. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.